So I have a story to tell tonight. It's not a Christmas story, but it is a true story, and it doesn't take place at Christmas, or even among Christians. It's a story among Muslims in the Sudan during the month-long holy season of Ramadan. And this is a story that was told by a teacher in the capital city of Khartoum. The country was so dangerous, you needed a permit to leave the city. Even so, this teacher would occasionally take his classes out into the desert for a period of time. On this particular trip, he loaded 20 students on the back of a flatbed truck. Now, if you didn't know, during the month of Ramadan, observant Muslims don't eat or drink anything during the day, including water. And since they were supposed to arrive at their destination before dark, no one brought any food or water with them. So travel outside the city was not only dangerous, shifting sands made it nearly impossible to maintain roads. And whenever sand covered up a road, and sometimes it was miles at a time, they had to trust their instincts. They had no GPS, and in the desert there's no cell phone coverage. So after riding in the back of this truck for what felt like a really long time, rumors began to spread quietly among the students that they were lost. And when dusk came, sure enough, the driver admitted they were indeed lost, but he insisted they had to keep moving on. And they wandered in the desert for hours until the sun had completely set, and it was time to break their all-day fast. Except no one brought anything to eat or drink. No one said much, but each of them was thinking about the stories of what happens to people who get lost in the desert. And it's not good. As they continued through the night, their headlights stretched out for miles in an empty desert. And then, just when they were feeling their most desperate, their most hopeless, they hit a rock. Some wires were torn, and now their headlights didn't work. And there was no moon in the sky that night, and with thick clouds, there were no stars either. They were out there traveling in total darkness. One person walked sort of inched ahead of the truck, leading the way, and another stood scanning over the top of the cab to look as far in the distance as they could possibly see. And with each passing hour, they lost a little more hope, which made them even more thirsty and hungry. Not to mention, it added to their fear of what happens to people who get lost in the desert. And it's not good. Then, one of the students in the back of the truck said, "Hey, isn't that a light?" Everybody got excited, but no one else saw anything. They all tried to look as hard as they could, until someone said what everyone else was already thinking: "It's just your imagination." But she insisted, no, there on the horizon. It's the tiniest pinprick possible. I think. The guide told her to point where she was sure it was, and even though he didn't see it, he directed the man walking in front of the truck to start moving toward something everyone thought must be only in her imagination. She kept saying, "It's there, look, over there." But as they moved toward the light, it became clear it was only her imagination. I mean, it had to be a mirage, because as they got closer, it didn't get bigger. And yet, what else could they do but move in that direction? There was no other direction to try. And then somebody said they thought they might see something too. And then another one, and then another one, and they finally arrived at the source of the light. But it was impossible that anybody could have seen it. It was a candle. She saw it from miles away. One candle outside a few tents in a small Bedouin camp. You see, one of the Bedouins couldn't sleep. So she came out of her tent and, propped up a crate on its side, dripped some wax. It's okay to drip some wax there to hold up the candle, not here. And that was it. One candle in an empty desert. But still, one girl saw that candle. And that's what led a lost group of students through miles and miles of desert. One candle. And it is absurd. So you realize, absurd or not, it actually saved them. This is a true story. They owed their lives to a stranger who couldn't sleep. And one girl who saw something in the distance that no one else could see, and who dared say it, and invited them to trust her. Now, if there had been any moon or stars in the night, or any other light at all, she wouldn't have seen that far into the distance. And in fact, if they had not lost their headlights, they might still be lost. Oh, and by the way, they arrived just before dawn. Just in time, because if they'd arrived any later, they'd have to wait an entire next day before they could eat or drink. That is, if they had ever arrived anywhere at all. So, it may not be a Christmas story or a Christian story, but it to me, teaches a powerful spiritual lesson tonight in the midst of the country we are living in right now. No matter how dark things get, one candle still makes a difference. Gospel of John says, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't extinguish the light. Or put another way, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can't blow it out. It is a dark time in our country. It seems like I could come here every week and give more examples of chaos and cruelty and suffering. And it's all exhausting, right? Spiritually, emotionally, mentally exhausting. And it's easy to lose sight that there might be any light on the horizon because it's so far away, or feels like it. But that's exactly why we came tonight and why we keep coming back. It's so simple, I shouldn't even have to say it, right? But we all need those kinds of reminders. So I welcome Christmas every year to bring it back. That when we don't feel like we have much hope, we light one candle in the dark. And it may not seem like much, but it will make a difference. And when things don't feel very peaceful, well, in our country or around the world or maybe in our family, light one candle for peace. And sorry to say it's that simple, but it will make a difference. And when we're sad, adding yet one more candle as light increases, it will increase our joy. And when someone you know doesn't feel loved, light a candle for them and tell them that you did. And it will make a difference to them. In fact, when you feel like you're alone, one more candle makes it less dark. And then tonight we come and we lit the Christ candle, the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't extinguish it. No matter how dark it is, in Washington or on the border or in our homes, darkness cannot extinguish the light. Nothing can dim the light of the candles we light, or the light of Christ. So when we listen to all the news of chaos and cruelty and suffering and feel overwhelmed again, probably tomorrow or the next day, remember that none of that is capable of extinguishing light. Though we are traveling through dark times now, remember there's a pinprick out there somewhere that I may not see, but you might see. And would you help us all get there? Remember, darkness cannot be extinguished because darkness is ultimately powerless, inept, incompetent, and useless. When it's dark out, the light shines in the darkness. Thanks be to God. On this Christmas night, I invite us to be aware of the gifts that God gives us every day of the year. And one of our members is going to say why he invites us to give.